around since the 18th century, and yet we still discuss it to this day. So I'd like to go ahead and thank the judges, Father Stephen, Father Tom, and the members of the church to be here to help discuss it with me. When President Jefferson coined the term separation of church and state in 1804, he was actually referring to the state keeping its nose out of the church's business, not vice versa as many today imagine. In fact, our founding fathers were very religious. They constantly had theological discussions, and Thomas Jefferson even wrote his own edition of the Bible. But one stark contrast between then and now is that those discussions were held in private, not publicly like they are nowadays. Back during those times of the founding fathers, our motto was E pluribus unum. It only became In God We Trust in 1956. We added Under God to the Pledge of Allegiance in 1954. Ohio's state motto, With God All Things Are Possible, is the only state motto lifted directly from the Bible, coming from the book of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 26. It was adopted as our state motto in 1959. All of those have survived several lawsuits, but you may have noticed they're all somewhat new in relation to the long history of our country. Wonder why? Because in the 1950s, we were at the height of the Cold War, and communism demands atheism. To show how different we were from the Soviets, our government vehemently embraced religion. It was at this time that most politicians started not just openly talking about, but campaigning on their religion. Besides the First Amendment, the only time religion pops up in the Constitution is in Section 3 of Article 6, where it states, "No religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States." Despite this, we constantly look at and critique the religion of candidates for office. If they happen to be Christian, we look at what denomination they are, how often they attend church, and their level of biblical literacy. My question is, why? A quote from St. Paul the Great, one of the Desert Fathers, goes, "The beginning of evil is the lack of vigilance." We owe it to ourselves as Christians to remain vigilant and see if these candidates are acting like Christians or simply campaigning as Christians. Plenty of Republicans are against abortion, but are fine when children are separated from their parents at our southern border and caged. What does the Bible say about this? The book of Luke, chapter 17, verse 2, is pretty clear. "It would be better for you if a millstone were hung around your neck and you were thrown into the sea than for you to cause one of these little ones to stumble." On the other hand, there are some Democrats who do not call for gun control to help save countless lives and are still very much for the death penalty. What does the Bible say about that? The book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 13, states the sixth commandment, I'd say fairly clearly, "You shall not kill." And then these Democrats and Republicans are at each other's throats because they each think that they are right. It quickly devolves into mudslinging and name-calling, nothing but hate. The first letter of John, chapter 4, verse 20, goes against this hypocrisy. "Those who say, 'I love God,' and hate their brothers or sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister for whom they have seen cannot love God for whom they have not seen." So what do we do? Well, I say we do what Christians do best. Pray for them. Every week during the liturgy, we pray for those who are serving our country. Most people imagine this at first as members of the military or first responders who put their lives on the line every day. But if you listen closely, we do also pray for the public officials. It is only right that we do this. It is only right that we pray for them to give them strength, lead us through many trials and tribulations that we as a country face. Whether they are Christian or not, we should pray. What if they're one of the many, though, who claims to be a Christian but does not act as such? The solution is simple and very democratic. Vote for someone else the next election cycle. It reminds me of the parable of the woman caught in adultery, when in the book of John, chapter 7, verse 8, Christ said, "Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." It is not our place to judge someone on how pious they are. I say we leave that to God. After all, we are not perfect. Let us continue to pray for those who hold office so that they will keep doing the right thing, and for our friends and enemies across the aisle. There is not a Democratic America and Republican America. There is only the United States of America, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.